We have so far started every episode, I think, with a little bit of audio from the show. I sent you another one. Will you hit the Chicago chapter?
Yeah.
Hey, dude.
It's a little wild and a little strange when you make your home out on the range. Start your horse and come along, but you can't get it right if you can't hold on. Singing, yippee-ki-yay,
Yippee-ki-yay, what?
like the cowboys sing.
Sing it again now.
Yippee-ki-yay,
Get along, little dogies.
till the break of day.
Better watch out for those man-eating jackrabbits and that killer cacti. Hey, dude.
Hey, dude.
So great.
We began our morning show with that song for the entire time we were in Chicago, and welcome back. It's Mason and Remy, and this is the episode we talk about the Chicago chapter of our Eras tour. When we last left, we were working mornings and afternoons on two different stations in St. Louis. We had seen a ton of success, and that didn't matter because there was something else happening in another world, and somebody made some decisions, and you know, whatever success you have doesn't matter in that moment, decisions and reasons. And so we were not doing mornings anymore. We were doing afternoons now. And we said, we want to do mornings. So they said, okay, watch what you ask for. Go do mornings on the oldies station. So we did both. That's where we were. We did mornings on KLOU and we did afternoons on the Bull for, I want to say it was a year, maybe two, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So how did we get the call to go up to Chicago? We talked a little bit about that at the end of the last episode. So we'll talk about what it's like to be in this big city. When you're in radio, or really television as well, when you're talking about cities, you're talking about market size and you're talking about success at the top end. Like when you start in cities like I did, I was in mid-Michigan. The Tri-Cities. I believe it was like market number 130, 150, somewhere around there. Bloomington, normal, even smaller, 250, if I remember correctly. St. Louis, right around 20. And New York, number one, right? LA, number two. I think Chicago was number three. Might have moved now because Houston was coming up at the time.
I think it's still number three.
Is it? Okay. But that's the goal when you're in radio, right? Like the only thing bigger than getting into a big market is getting on in several big markets, which is that syndication deal, the great pie in the sky deal, the carrot that they dangle to try and get everybody to work a little harder. So what was it like? We're going to cover our Chicago era in this episode. We'll talk about how we went from Busch Stadium to Wrigley to Comiskey. We did that. How we ended up, adding people to our morning show and how we ended up not doing mornings again. How did we lose it the second time? We're going to cover all that here in the Chicago era. So many things to catch up on. Is Remy and I have planned out these episodes and we're thinking and we're talking just before we get to recording. And we're like, there's so many things we could talk about here. Because there is so much stuff. I also want to say early on in this episode right now so that Alabama will join us coming up here in a little while. I'm excited to say we're really looking forward to chatting with Bama for a little bit. But before Alabama joined Mason and Remy, we were on the air for like was it a year or so in Chicago before we brought in someone else?
I think the key was, hey, you guys should have a female perspective on the show. And I think that's something that as we grew, we were kind of looking for as well. Alabama brought a whole different flavor and we appreciated her for that for sure. I think she was a fan favorite on the show, but we'll get to all that. I remember a lot of things from the first little bit of Chicago and just going back to the market size and everything. As I kind of said earlier, I dropped everything for 22 or 21 or whatever, St. Louis was at the time. And we dropped everything for 3 for Chicago. That was the ultimate goal, I think, was to work in a major market at some point. And it was also the last frontier in my mind for not getting replaced by a syndicated show. I had mentioned this in the last episode as well. Steve Harvey worked, and there was a couple other ones that worked in Chicago for syndication, but it's a market where they love their local talent, whether that be TV or radio. They're very it's a sense of pride to know that the talent is actually in the building. You might see him out and about, all those things. And so we were going to take the playbook that we had for St. Louis and apply it to Chicago. Chicago was a place that I was much more familiar with because, it was only an hour and a half south from north from where I grew up. And we went there a lot when I was a kid. We went there way more than we went to St. Louis. So I was very familiar with Chicago. And the coolest thing in the world is, playing country music on Michigan Avenue on like the 26th floor of a building. I mean, to think about that, and just like the view from our kitchen up there. Oh, it was chef's kiss, right? This was the pinnacle. This is where we were going to retire. This was it, right?
Yeah, that's what we want. It's the goal, right? You get to this, and then you're like, how can I just hold on to this? And in our initial like journey, there's always that talk when you get into those comments there. We want you guys to be here for 20 years. You know what I mean? I remember those like conversations. We want you guys to be here for so long. We're going to set you up for success. We're going to get so much. You want those boots on the ground. You want to make sure that like you said, you have Chicago people in Chicago talking about Chicago. It was kind of the same as St. Louis. So we were initiating the same playbook. However, we ran into a few speed bumps. First off, while we were going to do mornings in Chicago, we had not mentioned this yet. We were still going to record afternoons for the Bull in St. Louis. So we were what they had referred to as the new generation of fly jocks. And this goes back, was it Tom Joyner who was called the fly jock?
Yeah. Was it Dallas and Chicago or Dallas
Something like
and
that.
Yeah.
He was on the air in two big cities. And back in the day, before computers, this man would do his morning show in one city, hop on a plane and go to the next city and do his afternoon show there and then fly back and repeat this process every day. It's a different world now. That doesn't happen. Even Taylor Swift money doesn't get you like without people going, why are you flying so private and so much? You know what I mean? Like that stuff doesn't fly. It doesn't happen like that anymore. Now you can do it all on the computer. But the goal was for us to do our morning show and then go immediately in and record our afternoon show for St. Louis using some of the same content, right? Like we're just repurposing. We're on basically the same station. It just had a different name. Instead of saying, hey, it's X, Y, and Z on whatever channel, we're just saying something else. And we would just replace that part and kind of say, here's the unprofessional news and our Friday jam and all of our normal staples, bits, our shtick, our stuff. The things that we came to be known for, we could then use in the morning in Chicago and in the afternoon in St. Louis. The biggest problem I think that we ran into with that was the rivalry between Chicago and St. Louis.
Oh, yes,
Because
I remember this.
When we were announced, when they announced that Mason and Remy are coming to Chicago, there was a media blogger in Chicago who chose strategically, maybe not, to use pictures of us wearing St. Louis Cardinals gear to say, here's the guys coming to Chicago. So on like day one of our announcement, we were kicked in the midsection. Right?
Yeah.
There was, that everyone in Chicago looks and goes, St. Louis? Nah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're on the south side or the north side.
He was notorious for just like pulling band-aids off of people like fast, or slow, I guess you could say. But he revealed like no jock he never referred to them by their jock name. He would always refer to them by their given name. Yep. So
their legal name.
For those of you that don't know, my real name is Zach. I think that's kind of out there at this point.
Yep.
Remy was given to me by a program director, one of my first program directors, shout out Tony Travato, who is still in the game. But he said he went to babynames.com and closed his eyes and picked Remy off the screen. Anyways, that's the legend of Remy. He would put that up there and I was like, gosh, I just feel so like we're in St. Louis Cardinals jerseys and I feel so exposed right now in this. And, of course, the broadcast community is already kind of a bitter community. So we got some lashings right off the bat when we moved to Chicago.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that bitter, tough competition coming up in this episode too, because we definitely had those moments where it's friendly, right? Like think of it as McDonald's and Burger King, right? Like you all make hamburgers, but it's how you make the hamburgers, right? It's my hamburger tastes better than yours because I got this ingredient. And your hamburgers are garbage, so we're all out here talking about each other's hamburgers. And look at these St. Louis hamburgers. We make Chicago burgers,
Yeah.
whatever. It was what we had done before. We had come into St. Louis, right? And we uprooted some what's called a heritage station and a heritage morning show, like the legacy stations that have been there forever and ever. And it's just what you listen to for country music in Chicago was WUSN, right?
Yep.
And in St. Louis, before we came on KSD, it was WIL. And so when you are, I mean, when you had done it once, we were basically about to try and do this thing again. We know what we did in St. Louis, so let's try and do that here. The only difference is the internet had progressed so much that anybody who searched Mason and Remy would find all that St. Louis /Cardinals/Rams/Blues stuff that we were attached to while we were on the air in Chicago trying to connect with Cubs and Bears and Blackhawks fans, right? Like it kind of shot ourselves in the foot by being so St. Louis when we later got Chicago
Yeah.
as a market to work in. So it came back to bite us. But that's the world that we live in now. It's a much more global world. Well, I can connect with Remy right now. I mean, think about this in 2015. If this is what we would have been doing back then, we still can live anywhere in the world and do these things. Don't know why this industry still hasn't moved to that, but sure, okay. I also understand that you have to be very Chicago if you're in Chicago. I can do that from normal. You can do that from St. Louis. I mean, search Chicago on the internet. It's not hard to do anymore, but we were working in a different world now. So suddenly everybody saw the St. Louis stuff when we were in Chicago. So we had a real hard time getting our footing there right off the first, right off the bat. Not to mention that we were a regional Mexican station before we were a country station. So we didn't have any listenership at all. We were starting from zero. There was no place to go but up. And a big shout out to the Mexican community in Chicago who was like still listening afterwards. We have a lot of like Latino friends and family from that time who was just like, no, I just listened to the station. You guys came on and we're like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
think there was an alternative for Mexican, regional Mexican. The reason why it went under was because the other regional Mexican station in Chicago was preferred, I think. So they still had their music and maybe not their favorite jocks or whatever, but it was still available, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's a good point. And I totally forgot that we had a lot of listeners that kind of were just like, whatever, let's go.
Yeah, like this, like when we would go to do what is the bull riding events, like crazy to see the community there that like crosses over. You may not think that like the country music world and the Latino world are gonna like intersect, but that happens. And it's really popular. So it was very cool to see. I love breaking stereotypes. We've talked about that before. And I love to see that kind of thing and to see the number of people that we impacted, because Chicago is not exactly a farming town. It's a very diverse population from all kinds of different places. And we saw people from all sorts of different walks of life. And that was one of the coolest parts about this adventure. Some of the hardest was the cost of living in Chicago. Oh man, it's almost like you didn't get a raise.
Yeah.
Like we made significantly more money in Chicago than we did in St. Louis. Double, I think. Am I off in saying that we made close to $250,000 a year?
No, you're not off.
and that was the base, and we could grow from there with remotes and endorsements and stuff. However, if you want a 1-bedroom apartment, and Alabama can speak to this, in downtown Chicago, that was $3,000 a month. Imagine how much it is now after COVID.
Yeah.
My rent went up 65% during COVID. I can't imagine what it costs to live in the city of Chicago right now.
I think the best statement that I can give people to kind of just wrap your head around this, especially if you've never lived in a big city. Here in St. Louis, it's like, you go to work, you park your car, and you go into work, and you're done. In Chicago, you need a spot. You have to have a parking garage that you park your car. If you don't take public transportation, neither of us did because we lived in the suburbs, both in the south suburbs of Chicago. Not those south suburbs, the south suburbs. And so we drove in every day, and you had to have a place to park and walk up to the studio. And the parking garage that was preferred by our company at the time was $315 a month. To a lot of people, that is a car payment
Mhm.
to park in downtown Chicago. And yes, maybe we were getting compensated more, but to park at your place of work, do you feel like you should be paying to park? That's the biggest question.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember talking to tax guys like, "Can we do anything about this? Like, I have to do this." Like, "No, yeah." I would drive in from Bolingbrook, Naperville. You would come up from, was it Frankfurt at the time,
Yep.
right? And so no, at 4 or 5 in the morning, the trains aren't running. And unless you lived like right in the city, close enough to walk, yeah, you had to buy a spot. No joke. So when I say we made good money, we did. And so did the parking lot attendants and all the people who are downtown that you have to eat with. Like, your meals are twice as much as they were. I remember I was a huge Mountain Dew Kickstart junkie. Not anymore. All that sugar done messed up my teeth, man. But at the time, I could get them in Bolingbrook for $1 each. They were $3 in the city. Like, that's just a small example of the difference in price from city to suburb, 30-minute drive. And it was insane.
Probably
Yeah.
unlivable at this point. I would say, like, with inflation, like how
I have
do
no
you live
idea.
in the city, around the city? I know
I
that
can
there are
tell you.
people that make it work, but when it's also surprising probably for people to hear how much that we were making there.
Mhm.
But it's all relative. It's
Yeah,
all relative. So I don't know.
100%,
I
100%.
wasn't
Cost of
living I wasn't eating caviar every night. We
right.
were living a
No.
very Midwestern life. Our house was a little bit bigger, but like,
Bro, I have
yeah.
I have the same debt on my credit card from then as I do now. I mean, I'm just still steadily just the same thing. But your the point of like how crazy it is to live downtown right now. I can speak to this. I was in Chicago last weekend. I went for a Vampire Weekend show. Shout out Keaton and Alicia, my wife, the kiddo. When he was like 4, he was in the back seat going, "Hey, hey, hey, hey." They really wanted to see this show, right? So it was a cool moment. Also, a fun moment. Maya Rudolph is in a Prince cover band called Princess, and they opened up the show. It was fantastic.
That's
It was
awesome.
amazing. She was great. It was a very good show. $55 to park for 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
$55 to park underneath Soldier Field. I no longer retain any information from cities I have past lived in. It's so funny to roll up. I took that same way. I take the Stevenson every day. Right there, would go past the state. I went, there's a stadium. I can't remember its name. My wife goes, Soldier Field? Like, okay, yeah. Right? Like, it's gone now. It doesn't need space. I will lose something important.
Yeah.
But $55 to park. I remember going to a World Series game, Boston versus St. Louis, $40 to park. A World Series game,
Yeah.
$40 to park. Now a concert one night, 55. Insane dollars to park.
Yep.
But I also don't understand how anybody lives in the city or exists in the city. Keaton's actually there this weekend as we record this for Lollapalooza. So good luck, kiddo. He's got a job. He's paying his own bills now.
Yeah.
I understand. He stopped on his way up there. Hey, I'm gonna get some food to take with me. Like, you should save as much as you can. Absolutely.
You made a good point in the last little bit of the last episode where you said we're going to tell you how much we made because we want you to know where you or what you should be making if you are in that market or similar markets. And I feel like this happens a lot in radio. And nobody ever talks about how much you make. And there's probably good reason for that to some extent, but we were also in a union in Chicago. So
That's fair.
it was a totally different ball game for us. We were one of the 2 or 3 stations that were still in the SAG-AFTRA union, which was kind of cool to say that you're in the same union as like Brad Pitt and those guys.
Yeah.
And we got screeners before everybody else. We got to, pop in the DVDs, which I'm assuming they don't send those anymore. because it's all codes. It's probably easier to regulate that. We have you're supposed to destroy after you watch it once. We have a whole, our DVD section is filled with all
What?
this. I know.
You
Wait,
pirate.
yeah. But
have
yeah,
them,
I
don't
think
worry.
if you're still in the radio world, and I know that there are a lot of people that are listening to this that are curious as to what we might say next, know that that's where we were at, and go from there. You can base your
Yo.
you can base your judgment on that. But a lot of the bigger guys in Chicago, especially, had agents. So they had an idea of what the market was being paid. We did not. We've never had an agent. We never got an agent. The thought of giving 10% to some random person for maybe getting us a little bit more money. But I think agents were kind of on the way out at that point, especially for, markets like Chicago. If you're Seacrest, different story. Elvis
Yeah.
Duran, different story. But like for us, whatever.
Yeah, we were our agent, right? Like we were like, we got this. No, we don't need to, because if we're making that much, like what, $250,000, 10% of that is like $20,000, something like that. Like,
Yeah, and
Not
we were
trying
also
to-
paying dues with SAG-AFTRA, so
Right.
that was also a percentage. So
which is really the real reason you get the screeners. Am I right? If you pay your dues, they're like, are your dues paid? All right, cool. Here's the movies that came to
Yeah.
theaters. Watch them at
and
home.
you
Enjoy.
can, you can have health insurance as well.
Right. And that was a cool, and there were, you're not wrong in that. Like, I forgot that whole side of it. When we accepted the job, they're like, oh yeah, you have to become a union member. We're like, oh, how do you do that? By the way, actors struggle to become SAG-AFTRA members. Whoop, just got right in there. Whoop, snuck right in there under the radar. We work in radio. Oh, you're SAG-AFTRA. Here's your card. Sorry. I mean, and then, yeah, you get the benefits of like a pension and the other benefits that come with being part of the union. And so I'm not sure if that had a factor on how much we made, versus a station that maybe isn't a union station, but we would work for union stations in the future as well. And we'll talk more about that, but very interesting stuff too. I forgot about the union side of that and how that plays kind of a part in what's going on there. Cause there are like collective bargaining talks and the company talks to the union and, there's agreements on how many people work at the station and how many classified, are they 6-day-a-week employees or I remember all that stuff going back and forth and like, are you working weekends or are you getting paid for that? Because everything you do it should be compensated and paid. And they were like, what, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I guess, yeah. Okay. I guess we'll make note of that. And then you don't do that anymore all of a sudden because you did your due diligence. I don't know. Anyway.
The collective bargaining agreement was fun in Chicago because I think it said you can do up to 3 or 5, I'm not sure which one it was, unpaid appearances. And dude, I mean, any radio personality knows you're doing like probably 40-ish unpaid things a year with concerts alone. Like, and you as a personality, especially one that's coming up in a new market that you haven't been to, you need to be at that stuff. If you've learned anything from the previous episodes, it is all about boots on the ground, all about being in the listener's face, saying, having great conversation, things like that. So, we sucked it up, and thankfully the amphitheater was close to my place in Tinley Park. But a lot of those shows are downtown, and again, you got to park somewhere. You got to do the thing, and you don't always get compensated for that. So you might be paying $50 to park your car so you could be at Eric Church for a little bit in Rosemont, and then boom, you're gone after the interview's over. So
legit.
And in Chicago, the traffic is everything. I remember asking a cab driver when we first moved about the traffic, and he was like, your life is planned around the traffic. And that is 100% true. Like, I remember leaving for like a Hamilton show, and we had to be, I think the show started at 7, and I was like, hon, we need to be on the road by 3 to get there in time.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. It is, the traffic is a mess. And anybody I know, I work with folks in LA, they talk about it like crazy all the time. And I understand because Chicago is that way. It was 20 minutes on the way in at 5 a.m, at least an hour and a half on the way back, like every day with the traffic. But there was so much happening in Chicago, and we had kind of already once come into a big city like St. Louis and then come on the air and all of a sudden been like, boom, this is us. This is what we're doing. So we were ready to do that again and ready to take on this other station. And if I remember correctly, we were always wanted to get more players and characters onto the party. And we experimented with a number, and then we ended up running with with this trio for Alabama, welcome first, by the way. Welcome. It's so good to see
Hey.
you.
Hey.
Uh
Hey guys, good to see you.
so thank you so much for jumping in. I know you're busy. You're still like doing Alabama show every morning now. Real quick, are you back home?
Yes, so I moved back to my hometown where I grew up. So I live 45 minutes away from Meemaw, Remy. She asked about you and your booty shorts all the time, the Daisy Duke.
Right out of the gate. I love that. And you know what's funny is as we planned this, didn't even think of that. Making a note to pull that right now. But yeah.
Cause my grandma Meemaw had a crush on Remy for a while. She would always call the show and flirt with them. Do y'all remember that? Meemaw was like the best person on the show than any of us, and she didn't know any radio.
Yeah, I loved when she called the show because again, we've talked about authenticity so much, and there is no other woman that Meemaw could be. You know what I mean? She is just pure and true
Hubba hubba.
Southern hospitality. You know, she was great. So it was awesome to have her on the show. But to get started with you, I'd love to know what your feelings were coming on to our show to start. What was going through your mind? I mean, you're being put into a show of we've obviously, Mason and I have at that point had 8 to 10 years under our belt with each other, and now you're coming in kind of a wild card. What was going through your mind?
I have to preface this with I love you both. And there will be in a minute a full circle moment. But when I first came in, I was like, are y'all cussing on your podcast? Can I say shit?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I was like, holy shit. I didn't know what I was getting into. We were living in Chicago. It was my early 30s, like the most money we've ever made. Living in I lived downtown because y'all lived in the suburbs. And it was like FOMO. You never want to go to sleep. Nobody ever told me what mornings was about. You have to wake up at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and not stay up until 11 o'clock at night. And then I had never been on anybody else's show before. And it's a very hard adjustment if y'all have ever done like a solo show going to mornings. It's a different thing. No, but it was really great. Like I laugh now. There's a full circle moment because I am the host of a show here. And I have like a sidekick that I've coached and taught. And I went, oh my God, this is the stuff I used to do on Mason and Remy's show. And I was such a pain in the ass and had no idea.
That's so funny because I think after Remy and I separated as well, he said some of the same stuff too, right? Like because he then had to work with some other folks and was like, oh.
It's a very big change of switching roles and not getting to be like the wild card and say the wild stuff and having to keep everybody in line. And I brought you up, Mason, specifically to my producer the other day because he's the wild guy that says wild things. And I will never forget you said this one day in the studio where you were like, I wish I didn't have to worry about all this stuff and I could just sit and have fun. Or not like I'm paraphrasing, but you're like, I wish I could have fun and not have to be the conductor because you feel like the bad guy being the host because you're looking at, okay, I've got to hit commercials at this time. They're talking too long. How do I shut them up? We're all off track. What do I do?
The ringleader of the circus is a tough gig for sure. Yeah, herding cats. Absolutely. It's like you want to give people the space to show their talents, but also we got a clock we got to keep in order and we got songs we got to play and we got a guy on hold over here. It's definitely a juggling act.
And then you just had an air check meeting the day before and they told you to not do this, but do this and do more of this. So you've got that in your head. Then you saw on social media, somebody said, y'all are annoying. Yeah, there's so many things you're thinking about.
Absolutely. So right.
What was moving to Chicago like for you? Because we had talked about this earlier in the podcast about how it was kind of a culture shock. I mean, Chicago was an hour and a half north for me growing up, so it was somewhat familiar. But city life is a totally different ballgame. We were talking about how much it costs to live. And did we guess correctly that your rent was in the like $3,000 range a month?
It was like right under $3,000. I cried for the first month that I moved there because I was so turned around in circles and couldn't see. Like, I would turn one street to walk to the studio, and it was the wrong place. And I moved there in February. Did y'all move there February too? It was like negative 20 degrees.
Yeah, Chicago is not a summer town. It is for maybe 2 months, and then it's literally winter the rest of the time.
Yeah. I called Mama one day and I was like, I don't know what I did. Why did I move here? I don't know how to live in the city. I would walk straight to the bathroom for the first 2 months and cry for 10 minutes before I went and did my show. And this was in afternoons before I came to y'all with mornings.
It's definitely culture shock, something.
But then I loved it. I was like, holy shit, there's bars that stay open till 4. Restaurants say there's Lady Gaga's fiance walking down the street. They're filming a movie.
Yeah, there's so much happening all around. You're right. Like that FOMO of like any time you take a second away, you're missing something that's going on. And nobody's ready for this. We've talked about that a bunch of times as they go, are you ready for whatever? Like none of us are or were, and no one ever will be. You just have to kind of be tossed to the wolves like that to figure it out. And yeah, you got comfortable not only in living in Chicago, but like in mornings. Cause I definitely remember those times where we were like, oh, was there a remote last night? Like, did like what went on? Do we have to call and wake up Bama and make sure she's here? She's new to the mornings thing. So like, we'll try and help to make sure that she's there. Because it was a transition it's a transition for everybody. So like, don't take that personally. It's everybody has to learn that moment. I think Remy probably learned it at one point too. And I know I did too, but I was a kid. And it's so funny to look back on it now. And now you're talking about telling your producer about what that's like. Cause you're doing the Alabama show now in the mornings, right?
Yeah. And I know eventually, like one day, love him. He's a great kid. He'll want to go do his own show. And I was like, that's great. Just be prepared what you ask for. Cause I asked for this for years and then I got it. And it's a whole other ball game.
It changes your perspective so we've all worked in these different markets. And I think that there's a mysticism around the big city. I think that we all face these challenges in small markets and we'd be like, when I get to the big city, this won't be an issue. Spoiler alert, it is still an issue. They also are understaffed. They also have budgets and nothing to help you with. So and
it's just a more high pressure of, and also we're neck and neck with this other station and it's a huge competition. So be even better.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about that too. Cause I know Remy, we had done that in St. Louis. They brought us in and we kind of took this heritage station down and we were starting to do that now as we were all getting our footing. And I don't know if you had the same interactions as Remy did with the other like station and the other shows that were on the air. But I remember not going to an event, but Remy texting me about meeting the other show. And when, like I mentioned earlier, we all make hamburgers, but it's different. Sorry, cat distracts me. So I didn't get a chance.
One of my many rescue animals.
I didn't get a chance to meet the folks from the other station, but I know Remy had a run-in with them. What happened?
It was at one of the first shows that we were doing at Rosemont, and this is another thing that people don't know is that we were not a reporting station when we first signed on at Big 95.5, which essentially means that we don't report spins to the music labels, which if you don't do that, then you don't get all the cool stuff that music labels provide. You don't get to go backstage. You don't get to do all those things yet. So at that point, we were just kind of like going around and just getting a feel for all the venues and things. So I remember being at Rosemont and a member of the other morning show had come up to me and I noticed him and I was like, hey, how's it going? I'm Remy, was introducing myself. And he looked at me and he said, hey, honey, look, it's the guy that's taking food out of our children's mouths. And I was like, oh, so we're doing that. Okay. And I just laughed and I played it off and I was just like, it's just like kind of that, like that alpha male thing. He's just asserting dominance on me right now. And I was like, whatever. And I walked away. But, it's just those little kind of moments that resound, they amplify everything. Right. And,
oh man.
Yeah, that wasn't the first time that dude has said something. Anybody knows that man is a very
Who was that? Was that in Chicago?
That was in Chicago, and it was it was a guy. And
That other
he was
morning
on the
show that was
morning
on the air forever there. Yeah.
So if it's, it's funny. I don't know if this was before or after y'all were gone. I can't remember. But we hired the female, and I love her. Like, I still message her.
Is
She's
that
great.
Lisa?
And also, Lisa Dent is
Yes.
awesome.
I listened to her.
Yeah, I love
She's on
her.
WGN in the
She's
afternoons now. So she landed safely. But yes, her old partner, I believe, is who we're talking.
she's
Yeah,
amazing.
she was always great, super kind, and a legend in the country industry. It's not a fun job to be like coming in and uprooting these folks who have formed a whole life, right? 30, 40 years on the air or whatever in a city, and like you hate that you want to come in and kick their butts, but you kind of go like, but that also fuels you, right? Like any of us know that there's competition in any job, and what we do is a little competitive. We don't get to decide. We just put our art out there, and then the listeners decide. And the listeners decided. That station also underwent a
And what's so
rebrand.
crazy is like your bosses will put you in this take them down mode. But it's so funny because our radio is such a small industry. You never know who you're going to work with or maybe even work for 5-10 years down the line. So I've always tried to be like, okay, I'm not going to be a jerk to people if, unless you catch me on a bad day and I'm having a meltdown. But I try really hard not to, because you don't know who you're going to work for or work with one day.
100%.
That's our story, right?
Yeah.
Ended up working for
Yeah.
our competition back in St. Louis. So you are 100% correct on that one.
My boyfriend just got home.
Okay. For those who
Y'all
missed
might
it,
get to meet Steak Daddy.
Hey, I don't think we talked about it on the recording. I'm not sure if it made it in, but Alabama's been having some trouble with neighborhood animals invading and killing her chickens, right?
In the past 2 months, my freaking neighbor's dogs have killed 7 chickens, 1 duck, and they have bit 1 dog, and they chase me up the driveway when I get the mail, and I have all but cussed this lady out. And yesterday I came home to a murder scene of feathers in the yard. I was like, lady, why are you not keeping your dogs in their yard? And they won't get them fixed, and they keep having puppies, and we've called animal control, and animal control says euthanize them if they're on your property.
Ooh, whoa.
So my very Marine boyfriend taught me how to shoot a rifle. He taught me how to shoot the rifle last year because a bobcat attacked a chicken in the yard. And so now we're on predator watch.
I got to tell you,
We'll call it
it's
that.
been like 6 or 7 years, but this is the most Alabama conversation I think we could have had.
Yep.
I don't mean the person. Well, I guess I do. Like both of it, all of it. It's perfect. It's perfect. I want you to know that. I'm so happy when I see like you and the farm that you share on Facebook and everything you're doing. I'm like, it just seems like you're at home and happy. And
thank you.
I love to see that. I hope that the chickens are okay.
This is our new rescue kitten that our neighbors found on the highway, and I love her. Also, I still have Dixie that I got when I was on the show 6-7 years ago.
That's right. So much has happened since then. I know that like after we all ended in Chicago, like I know you went like out west, and maybe we'll chat about a little bit of that. But I know that we were just talking about. Remy, I'm sorry. You asked a question. I feel like we went off the rails there. Very normal though.
Sorry.
I was asking about the dynamic that you brought to the show, the energy that you brought to the show, and some of the fun that we had along the way. I kind of want to set the scene, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, Bama, but I want to play a video that I think is very fitting of our relationship as a show. To set this up a little bit, I don't know what kind of bet we had going on the show, but Alabama lost it, and we had her essentially as an Olympic figure skater. And I remember presenting the leotard that she was supposed to wear in this video, which Alabama and I have had talks, and I don't know that we would be able to get away with that in this day and age. However, it went over great. Someone called and they were like, I know former Olympic gold medalist Gracie Gold's coach.
However you say his name.
And yeah. So I want to play just a little clip of this because I think it's hilarious, and I think it really sets up who we were as a show. So let me go ahead and pull this up.
Welcome to Vernon Hills, Illinois, and the Glacier Ice Arena.
We're here at the first ever Alabama Learns How to Skate Invitational.
That's right. Her coach, Alex.
Nashville. from the Ukraine has trained amazing Olympic athletes like Gracie Gold and other members of Team USA.
Alabama, the first Alabamian skater from Alabama because, well, they don't have ice in Alabama.
You know, it reminds me of a tale that you may have heard about. The Jamaican bobsled team.
Oh, yes.
They were underdogs as well, and we all know how that turned out.
Well, they lost.
Horribly bad. Let's go down to the ice.
Wow,
This might not be good.
just marching. Can you
Okay.
march in the ice? So just pick up key and march. Pick up key, keep your...
You know, a lot of people going into this said that there would be no chance for someone from Alabama to even place in the Olympics, but looks like she is proving everybody right.
Number 1,
Don't look down.
don't look down. Number 2, bend your knees.
Okay.
Anything you're doing, you have to do on the sole.
Can I just mention that I feel like this man was hitting on you the entire time?
I couldn't understand what was happening half of the time.
Go on.
Okay.
Actually, bad skates. This skates is not really good. You have to get...
They're wobbly.
Yeah, it's not good quality public skate. But anyway, where's your knees? It's not the knees.
What is he doing?
It's the knees. Aha, yeah.
He said, not a good quality public skate.
Like, right? He's just gonna, dang, bro. Isn't this your facility? All right, anyway.
I'm your lovely boyfriend. Pretend you're coming to me to hug me.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
No kiss?
Kiss and hug. You got it.
You were such a good
Shake your
sport.
body like do a shake. If your husband will to you.
No husband yet.
No, okay, not yet. Not your boyfriend.
No boyfriend yet
Oh,
either.
okay.
You're my new boyfriend.
Okay, so if I will
Nice.
hug you like smooth,
Okay.
like this, you like scratch you. What do you prefer?
Nice.
Nice, same ice. Ice loves when you pet ice. Ice is like your lovely boyfriend.
Okay.
This guy is first, is quick as first is hitting on you right now, and boom, is that
Steak
Daddy?
There he is.
Just walked in. I said, "Hey, look at
Hello,
this. I'm
sir.
on a podcast."
How's it going, guys?
Mason and you.
Nice to meet you. Hello. Very cool. That's so
Yeah.
funny. And then he gets to see you do ice skating for the first time,
Oh,
where
no.
the
Did he-
instructor is clearly the instructor is hitting on her.
yeah.
It's that little part where he's like, "Your husband? Oh no, boyfriend? Oh
Now
well,
I will touch you.
yeah, that's not all right. That's not all
I
right."
have shown him
But there
that
was so much
video.
stuff.
I didn't. I you know what video I did not show him, and I hate you for this, Remy, is the hairy man bathing suit. I'll never forgive you for that. Don't you dare!
Mm.
Don't you dare!
I'll send you guys my email. I want a link.
Just
Oh,
hang
no,
tight.
don't
I mean, do you got it?
I
Remy?
don't
Oh,
have that one. No.
Lucky.
No.
lucky
You know
moment,
what else?
lucky
You
One
might
day-
escape this moment, but
One day we were talking in random conversation about something. I was like, "Yeah, it was kind of like that time I was on the Steve Harvey show," and he goes, "What?" And I was like, "Oh shit!"
What?
Yeah, that was.
He found it.
I forgot about that
Face
too.
palm when she said it.
I first remember when you did the Steve Harvey show, and I was like, "Who is this afternoon girl getting this on Steve Harvey?" And then I watched the episode, and they painted an image of you that was so embellished and so like this. You know, she's like one of the dudes, and you know all this stuff, and it was so funny
They
that
scripted
happened.
It. It was so embarrassing.
I completely forgot.
It was so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Completely forgot about that.
There was so much. Do y'all remember
So
Remy's
funny.
pregnancy week? And do you
I
remember
do have
Mason?
some of that if we want to
Do
watch
you?
some of that.
Do you remember Mason? We were walking through the streets of Chicago, and Mason hugged strangers.
We did. There's so many like little things that we were thinking about some of the stuff in the time there and going like, what should we relive from these moments? It's just so funny. I've completely forgot about so much of it. There was so much that happened there.
Yeah, I got you on this one right here.
Which
Check
one?
this out. Another intro, by the way.
Look at those lines.
It's happening. Woo! New Country, Chicago's Big 95.5. You're with Mason, Remy, and Alabama, and about 14 ounces of something Remy's wife made.
I have to drink all of this?
That's on Alabama.
The full bottle, not the almost empty bottle either.
So we're looking at about 6 ounces here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So yeah, we Ryan Hurd also just sent a direct message to the MRA Twitter, MRA on Big. He was like, "Is the breast milk and the coffee thing real?" But we had been talking about this, Remy.
It's real.
Oh my gosh, where your wife had tried her very own juice, and she was like,
I like baby fuel. I like that.
"Baby fuel is good." And she
I'd
was-
rather hear breast milk than juice at this point.
it came out, we contacted Lauren and we're like, "Hey, you know what? Let's get Remy to try it. Can we get some?" And she said yes.
There's
I think she
plenty.
thinks this is a great idea. And we all think this is a great idea, too.
So I actually, as I was leaving this morning, Lauren was up. She had just got done pumping and feeding our 1-month-old son, Leo.
It's fresh.
And so this is actually straight from the tap. We have so much left over in the fridge and ready to go. So
She's grateful.
She said I could have the fresh stuff.
Probably grateful.
How long does this stuff stay good?
So if it's straight out, it doesn't actually need to be refrigerated for like 4 to 6 hours.
Oh.
And in the refrigerator, about 3 days is what it lasts. I think 3 or 4 days.
Quit stalling. Drink the milk.
Okay, here we go.
So far this morning, Remy has tasted it in his coffee.
Am I just gonna chug it?
Didn't taste it. Then just about 10 minutes ago, he was drinking it in his cereal. Now it's a full on. How many ounces he got there?
6.
Swish it around in your mouth.
What? What? I mean, you really want to taste it, right?
All right. Oh, the first one will be a swish. I'll swish it around.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm just going for it. I'm just gonna go for it. Okay.
Swish it first.
This
All
is
right,
all
here we
live
go.
on the air, by the way.
Oh, that's sad. Oh my goodness. Do you need this?
Do you need the trash can? What does it taste like?
There's a trash can. Oh, he's going. He's going.
Look
He's
how
going.
his face
He's
is.
going. The
Oh
chuck,
my God, he's
chuck,
gonna
chuck,
puke.
chuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ew,
You break the tank. Break the tank.
Oh, I want to throw up for you.
Wait. How you
It
feeling?
tastes very. Oh, it's like less than skim milk. It's very watery. It's the consistency is not
Just
good.
real quick, take your tongue along the inside of your mouth right now.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's like,
As
Taste
an
in your-
example,
You good? You going back for seconds?
It's
as an
still-
example,
it's stop.
Mason at one point during that break goes, "Stop stalling and chug," and that is like a classic move for someone who is wrangling everybody in the studio. We're getting off the rails. It needs to happen. The thing needs to happen. Mason is very much like, all right, let's come back to the rails. So that is exactly what he's doing in that moment.
Poor Mason. I brought this up to my producer the other day because he always wants to interview artists and be the crazy guy in interviews. And I was telling him specifically how sometimes we would go interview country artists and Mason would be very professional. Like, you were so great and you were so professional. And then Remy would ask something and then y'all would let me ask something and I would look at Jake Owen and go, "How do you pee what do you do when you have to go to the bathroom and you're on stage?" And there would always be that moment during the interview where Mason would look straight at the camera and have this face like, "I hate my effing life. Why am I here?"
Never. And maybe this is something that maybe I never actually verbalized, but I was supposed to be the straight guy who is always, "No, I'm the straight man." And then there's, the other characters, right? So I was playing my part but I love that. And I want that. That's definitely that's the reason you're there. It's the reason Remy's there. It's the reason. And I'm just there to what's the word? Chaperone the field trip and make sure we all make it back to the bus. But that was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, but that was the design. You please.
Thank you. It was so cool watching. What was really cool about you is you were really vulnerable on the air about the stuff you were dealing with when you were living long distance from your wife, Alicia. You're not living long distance anymore, are you? Please tell me y'all moved into the same house.
We are in the house that we own now. Yes,
Thank
we are
God.
together.
How's Keaton? How old is
Yeah.
he?
He's great. He will be 20 in November. Yep. I waited for the delay for that. Yeah, he will be 20. He's actually in Chicago this weekend for Lollapalooza with his girlfriend who just turned 21. So I don't want to ask any more questions about what he's doing.
Oh yeah, don't ask. It's so wild seeing pictures on social media too. I'll see pictures of Remy's kid and I'll be like, "Oh my God, I remember when that they were born."
Yeah. When in that video there, he was talking about his 1-month-old son, Leo. And how old's Leo now, Remy? It's been 6-7 years, right?
They're 9 and 7.
That's crazy.
So,
That's crazy. There was so much that so much we can go back to. I don't know exactly how much we can cover, but I know that there was all of the stuff that we did with different the people we worked with. Like when I saw the video, I was like, who was recording that? It had to have been like Emily or somebody maybe from the team that was
Yeah.
helping us out in there, or maybe Justina. We could give a shout out to both like Flick and Justina, our producers, who were superstars of their time. And really helped us out a lot in those moments. But when I think back to some of the stuff that we did, like going from what the stage at Wrigley and welcoming in the Backstreet Boys and Florida Georgia Line, and then we did some cool stuff at Comiskey too, like with the Chicago Police. The a softball game or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was police versus firefighters. I believe they did like a softball game or something. It might have been baseball too, but I remember throwing the first pitch at that game. I could be wrong, but yeah, that was always fun. There was so much, and gosh, and we took our video game to an entirely different level in Chicago. Like just going through. I have the most videos downloaded for this episode. We probably won't get to a lot of them, but like I was just like, oh, we got that one, we got that one. We were at the iHeart Country Festival,
Like
spawned
food.
off into us going a couple times. Yeah, there's just so much.
But just
that
making sure it's not the hairy man bathing suit video, right? Just making sure.
Hang on, let me get straight, Daddy. Oh, God.
I don't have it.
Okay.
So there was a lot of, and going back and looking for the videos, there's a lot that we just posted on Facebook for some reason, and I'm sure there was just more reach on Facebook at that time, and some that we didn't post on our own YouTube channel. So there's a lot that are just lost on hard drives at my house right now. But
And some I
yeah,
would
there
not
was-
share on my personal.
Well, that was like some of the fun. Well, though, there's like we talk about the wild card that you were on the show, and that's what some of the stuff like WTF was. I think that was one of the first ways that you started coming into
Where's the fun?
the morning show too. Was like, where's the fun with Alabama? Was I think you were just. I don't know if you were regularly on the show when you started doing that. I don't think you were.
No, I think it was just a test to see how it went, and we would do that. Because I don't think I
And Bama
actually
would come in,
knew
like, once-
y'all wanted me for mornings until like after doing that for a while.
Yeah. And the Where's the Fun segment was a good one. There were so many. I don't know if you had any of those to go back to or if you wanted to, but we also had like the Breastmilk thing that we watched, and then we had like Leon who would come by from time to time
Yeah.
and do Leon's Countryside.
I got one. I have one of those if you wanna watch a little bit of it.
Yeah, for those who don't know Leon is still, I believe, on the air on a different station in Chicago, but he was just so fun and hilarious,
He
a
used to
comedian
do-
in Chicago.
He used to tour with Bernie Mac.
Yeah, dude, and one of the funniest guys I've ever talked to, and one of the more fun guys that we worked with. Still going there. Go ahead and cue up a little Leon's Countryside. We always have a new intro for every video.
Consistent. We've got 2 in a row.
Impromptu beatbox. Don't do that. The beatbox is with your mouth. You don't tap the mic.
You use an instrument, Bama.
It's Walker Hayes, guys. It's the song we're talking about this week. Thanks for playing along. It's Mason, Remy, Alabama, Leon.
What's up, everybody?
How are you? How are
Yo,
you?
yo, yo.
Hey.
I'm good, my brothers and sisters. Listen, Walker Hayes, great song. I like this song. You know, he had the reminder. Look, heifer, you broke up with me.
I don't think he actually says heifer.
Well, I mean,
but...
that's the vibe. That's what's going. I mean, I use the word heifer, but he probably could use another word. Look, you know, rhymes with rich. You broke up with me.
Right.
I was
right.
chilling, doing my thing. I was
Oh
in
my
love
God.
with you. We was kicking it, having a good time. The next thing you know, you want to be single. You thought the grass was greener on the
Pause for
other
a second.
side.
Leon was so great. We would give him a topic and because he was a comedian, he would just be like, let me get 5 minutes of material on whatever it is. You just give me a day, right? Like we would tell him the next day, come on in. And then we would set these videos up. And by the way, that's Remy and I setting up iPhones and cameras around the studio to make sure we could get that video. That was not like they gave us cameras for that. Those were our personal cameras that we bought. But going again back to like when I get to a big market, they'll have all the support and all the stuff. No, No. We did it all ourselves, and we made it happen that way, and that was how we produced that content and stood out from these other stations and stuff. But like Leon, such a good dude, such a funny guy, so cool to like come down the hall from the urban hip hop station and come to the new country station, not even afraid, and just walk in. Some people didn't like that segment, you know. Some folks were not big fans of Leon on the country station, but Leon and the boss were friends. So Leon did whatever he wants.
He was great.
Yeah. Big fan.
I have another video here that is
Real quick. Before
gonna say
you
something?
play,
Yeah.
all I keep looking at when you play these videos from 6 years ago and 7 years ago, all I can think is, why did nobody tell me how to properly draw my eyebrows on? Because those look like caterpillars.
Oh no. No. Like, don't look back. Well, I had hair and it wasn't gray. It is so different to look back. And we were all babies and had no idea what we were doing. Isn't it funny? I don't know if you guys feel this way. Maybe it's just because I'm like an old man now, but how confident we were in our youth, and how like just I'm like, I am who I am. Get out of my face. When we're young. I don't know if you've experienced this, but now that I'm older, I'm like, why should anybody have cared about you? This is me. I'm not gonna be like, why did anyone care about you? Why were you yelling so loud? Calm down, Mason. Maybe it's just me as I'm older, but I look back at how the confidence level.
I'm like, I'll say
Super
that
funny.
because I had a previous co-host before my new producer got hired, and I'll be like, nobody cares who we are. And our boss used to tell us that back then, and I would get mad when he would tell us that. He'd be like, nobody cares who you are. I'd be like, yes, they do. They stop me in the street. They do. But no, nobody gives a shit.
There's a time when I believe that this video, I thought that it'd be a good idea to do some vlogs. Eric Zachary was and still is, I think, one of the great innovators when it comes to technology in radio.
Yeah.
And he's still doing his thing. And I always took inspiration from him because he'd come in with these like Casey Neistat-esque vlogs all the time. He'd be rolling around on the hoverboard or some penny board or whatever. He's like the coolest kid.
He worked with
What's that?
MTV for a while. He worked for the reboot
did?
of what V8, not V8, whatever the Carson Daly.
TRL. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's
So
right.
shout out to Eric Zachary. I still follow him on socials, and I know he's got his own syndicated show going on. It's called XYZ with Eric Zachary.
And let's shout out the Trace and Jordan as well. Big shout outs to those guys too, because they're good folks.
dudes.
And Mama Zachary as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
but I took some inspiration from that. I was like, maybe we can do like a monthly vlog or something. So that's where this started. But I think that there might be some nuggets in here that we can talk about. So
It's gonna be May.
It's already May.
Old country buffet.
Remy's wearing lingerie.
Zimbabwe.
Let's buy him a bouquet.
Beyonce.
Can we do the jam?
that was us. That was the show right there. I'm gonna go on that.
Legitimately just happened one day when we started recording.
It's Mason. I'm a fashion idiot. I would wear this hoodie to the iHeart Country Festival if I could, but instead, Brooke over here has a fashion blog. Brooke's look for Mason today.
Who are you looking forward to the most? You can only answer when you have mouthfuls of food.
Stay going so I can film this.
Stay going.
Stay going. We wanted to do something very special for the listeners that were here from Chicago. We wanted to treat them to some dinner and drinks.
Say hi to Chicago. We're in 80-degree weather. I love you all. Bar's closed.
Speedway today, obviously.
No, we're not.
No, we are not.
Are you in the Speedway by yourself?
What are you
I'm in
doing?
the middle of the track. I got a security guard to let me in. He was like, I don't know. Okay, you're with the radio station, whatever. Maybe I should be upset at the vague email that I got. What if I did 95 laps in the pace car?
We had a lot of fun out there at the
I'm
Speedway.
Mason.
I'm Alicia.
Oh my God.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Hey, it's a family cast.
I really just want to make Mason cry in every one of these episodes, but I think we have Jason Aldean shooting a bow and arrow into the wall here, so I'm going to continue with this video now.
That's right.
No! So I actually, as I was leaving this morning,
so we did all that, and I don't know. I will say this, in summation, no matter how big the logo that you attach to your jacket is, it does not equal job security.
We tried that. I definitely have like the logo on a tie that I got done, the big logo on the back of Remy's jacket. Didn't you and like your wife rhinestone that in?
Yeah, well, I will say shout out to my amazing wife, because I think what ended up happening is I was able to get the red, like they make fabric spray paint or whatever. So I made a template and I did all that and I taped it and I sprayed it on there. And then I was like, this would look so much better if it was rhinestones. And my wife, being a former ballet ballerina and then making costumes and all those things, she sat down and painstakingly put each one of those rhinestones on that jacket. And again, it didn't matter because we lost our jobs anyway. So
I think more crafts happened during that time than ever.
Yep, very much so. But that was a good summation, I think, of that month, who we were as a show. Going to the iHeart Country Festival, interviewing all the artists, being a part of that. I think, the company had started to at least trust us with those things, and you start to think that you're gonna you're doing good, and whatever's happening in the background is what's happening in the background. But I think that in Chicago, we did our very best to be as much in the moment as we possibly could, along with all of the other stuff. And they're probably still doing this, so I don't want to make it too big of a deal, Bama, but they're probably still making you say $1,000 contests every 3 or 4 times an hour, aren't they?
Oh, well, that's done right now. Now it's going to be the giveaway. But I think it's to fly to one of the festivals. But what's cool is for the show, like, I think about this because people used to be like, why did you used to spend $3,000 a month on rent? Because I think about that now and I'm like, oh my God, I could have bought a house with renting a place in Chicago. And my reasoning for that then was, I never know if I'll get the opportunity to live in a city like this. So I really want to do it right. And I also think that goes to radio shows. Like, I look back to all of my radio jobs, and in the moment, we get so stuck in the everyday, we forget. Like, I look back at my time with y'all, and it's really like, oh my God, y'all were like my 2 older brothers. And the stuff that I learned from both of you, like the fun stuff we did, is why I have learned how to do fun stuff with that in shows that I'm on, that I've been on after y'all, and the show I host now. Like, I would never think to do funny contest or anything had Remy not make me wear a damn leotard and learn how to skate on ice from a freaking coach that I didn't understand.
You were such a good sport in those things too, because maybe you didn't have to be. Maybe you were like, I don't know what this is. I don't want to do this. This isn't me. And I know it was a big change from the Bama that was on the air in afternoons to the Bama that was getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. And we were all growing and getting older.
I went from the party girl to learning how to be a grown up with y'all. And it's funny because I'm sorry, I'm plugging in my cell phone. My last host, he was like, you're making me do dumb stuff and look like an idiot. You wouldn't do this. And I went, oh, let me show you what I did do. Because yes, I did.
Just pay them dues. Yeah, no, that's funny. So much happened there. Remy, I don't know if you have any other highlights that you want to go to, but I'm thinking of like all the other things that we went and we did video wise. What else do you have that you might want to review?
I have a video that I will say I have never laughed so hard in my life. We started a new segment or a new video series called Remy's Package of the Week. Yes. And we had all the puns, right? And we continued doing this into our WIL days as well. And it never did well in views, but it was always so much fun to actually shoot. and I want to play one from Alabama. We did a Remy's package of the week, and I'll play that now.
Welcome to Remy's Package, the show where you send me things and I open them up on camera, not knowing what's inside. This week, Alabama returns from Mason, Remy, and Alabama. She sent me another package
Hey, Remy, I'm holding your package.
of the week.
Remy's package. Remy's package of the week.
Come on in.
All right, I'm coming. It's squishy today.
I'm excited.
I feel like your package is usually squishy when I'm around.
You're a big fan of Remy's package. You always send me stuff. This is great.
I am a big fan.
Alabama, did you see that on the label it says what's inside?
Yeah, but you still don't really know what it is. Like, you haven't seen it. You haven't touched it for yourself.
My package had to go through customs before it came here.
Your package is international now.
I like that. All right, let's open it up.
Double bags.
What is this?
Well, it said it on the thing.
It looks like it's like been knitted or something. Mike, your cat, you should save this bag because your cat would love it.
Your package will keep you warm.
What is this?
It's an octopus hat.
It's an octopus hat?
Put it on. Put it on your head.
What is...
You know, you can't grow a real beard, so I thought this would be a way for you to have one anyway.
Oh, I look like, what is it, Davy Jones's locker? What is that guy?
You could be on Pirates of the Caribbean. Your package is ridiculous.
What is this? I can't stop laughing. I'm so sorry. Who actually wears one of these?
You should wear it in front of your kids.
I will scare my kids.
You really need to see somebody wearing it. Look, let me put it on so you can see your package in action.
Oh my gosh.
Hang on, here you go.
What is that? What is that?
I swear, it's like we both had tried weed for the first time or something.
It's so funny.
That was not the case, but oh my gosh, I don't know why that was so funny, and I think I could see myself on the viewfinder of the camera that we were shooting on, and that's what like triggered that. It was
It's so funny.
So funny. There were so many of those moments where people just buy things like and put it on, Remy, or whatever it was, and try it on. So many good moments too from back when we were there. What else do you have on deck right now? I don't want to move on to anything else before, like, because I don't know how much time you have, Alabama. We didn't really say we'll record for this long.
Y'all are the last person.
We haven't really.
I'm laughing because my boyfriend's behind my phone and he can hear the videos y'all are playing, but he can't see them. So periodically he'll look at me and be like, "What's going on? What did y'all do?"
A lot.
Do you still on your show to this day do What's Awesome?
Yes.
No worries. No, that's awesome. It's good stuff. And the whole point was to like share positive news. There's way too much of that like other side of stuff that's, I mean, any TV show will be like somebody died, find out if it was on your block at 10. And so any good news is good stuff. So yeah, we used to do What's Awesome, and we did a lot of cool stuff around that.
What's cool that Mason did, I remember you ordered Mason, Remy, and Alabama What's Awesome little whiteboards, and we gave them to teachers because teachers would call in. They would do it in their classrooms and have kids write down what was awesome. And kids would like have the simplest things that would make their day. Like, I got ice cream today.
Yeah. Do you remember we bought those?
I'm pretty sure
I bought them. Like, right. Yeah. I just wanted to highlight that we paid for our own promotional merchandise while we were in Chicago.
I bought myself
I'm
a
sure that
box
there were
of
times.
Alabama show pens right here. That's the hustle
Nice.
radio.
And then you give them the folks, right? Like that's breaking through in my opinion. I think that some folks hand out like, I got a t-shirt, but like you're never wearing a station t-shirt anywhere you actually want to be seen. It's either to bed or quickly to the store so I can get like a lighter. I don't know. But when we would give out, like you said, the whiteboards, while we were back in St. Louis, we did squishy tacos with the Mason and Remy logo on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Something that stood out. You know what I mean? We wanted to do that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
Any other big moments that are sticking out to
Do you remember the bat?
both?
The
Oh, that's right. We
Batman.
had someone come in with a bat.
It was like the big bat from Batman.
did you say?
Wasn't it in the movie?
Oh, I think it was. I think that because they were shooting a Batman movie at the time in Chicago. Was it like the Dark Knight? One of those last Dark Knight movies?
My favorite will always be Remy wearing a pregnancy baby bump, wearing yoga pants, walking through downtown Chicago. And then what was every day of Remy's pregnancy week was something different. So we made him chug a gallon of water one day because you'd have to go to the bathroom a lot. Then he did pregnancy yoga. Oh, and then we had the doula. Remember the doula that came in and we simulated labor pains on Remy and we put the TENS machine on him and he had to go through labor and she walked him through the childbirthing process. That was my favorite. That's way better than the leotard. Bet you didn't pull that video, did you, Remy?
Do you feel anything?
Oh,
Whoa!
like that?
That was level 1.
Oh, that was weird. Oh, that was so weird.
Are you okay?
I think so.
Tell us about the sensation you experienced. What just happened?
It feels vibrationally odd, very odd.
Electrodes again attached. Did you just hit it again?
I hit a level 2. Right
Oh my
now.
God, we're only at 2?
That sounds like the contractions are about 20 seconds apart at this point.
This goes up to a level 8.
How about let's not do that? Ah!
Remy currently experiencing labor pains.
You can
bring it up to the peak slowly, bringing it up.
She said
She's
slowly.
just like going right to it.
Why did we make you lay back like you were in stirrups?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I have no idea. There's so much of that I was like, gosh, this is like women probably hate me because it feels nothing like actual labor, I'm sure.
And yet you somehow made an orgasmic noise in that last moment. You just somehow like a little something came out. It sounded like, oh my goodness. Oh man.
So yeah,
I don't know if are people doing this stuff on the radio anymore. I don't feel like there's anybody doing these fun things. Oh man.
Maybe. I'm so stuck in my bubble. I don't see. I know they do, but it wasn't as fun as when we were together.
Whatever it is, not as fun and not as good. We'll throw that out there. But yeah, I've definitely been locked in my bubble too, and like have put on the blinders and just gone into whatever, stay your course, right? You don't need to be worrying about none of that other stuff. Are there any other highlights, Remy, that you have that you want to jump into?
not at the moment.
Okay.
So I don't know if you had something that you wanted to mention.
No, I mean, I think about stuff that we did while we were in Chicago, and that was like the time where, Bam, I don't know if you were with us. Were you with us when I went and shot that little scene in Nashville?
No, but I remember that you did that. You were in an episode of Nashville. Do you get royalties from that? Do you get like a penny a month?
Yes. Yes.
We gotta find that
Literally
episode.
about that.
What season? What episode?
It might be season 4, episode 4 of Nashville.
Not sure.
I'm not sure if Remy has that or not. Did you have that, Remy?
Yeah. So one day, my boss, Steve, had come to, I think he just emailed me, and he was like, because he knew that I had theater background, and he had said something like, hey, Nashville, the show on TV, is looking for extras, and they need a radio DJ to play a small role in the show. Would you be interested? And I go, oh my gosh, this would be awesome. And at the time, it was one of those things where I felt like I needed to extend that to Mason as well. Can we both do it? Can we do it as a show? Can we do it as the brand or whatever? And it ended up being this weird audition where we both did the audition. We went back and forth on this, and they ended up choosing Mason in the end. So it went from me super hype about doing this, and then I included Mason on it, and then they ended up choosing just him. And I was so upset about that. But that's like, did I ever tell you that? Did we ever talk about that?
I think
I knew that. I knew that it broke your heart. Like I knew that it was like, but it's like, how do I say no to like to that? And to be fair, like through a lot of my life in this spotlight, I felt like I didn't have much going on, and I could really use that. Like I was like, I could could actually be really good for me. So I appreciate that you included me. And yeah, it got to be, it was a pretty cool experience. They had this character who was going to be talking to, what was the actress's name?
Serena James, no, the blonde one. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Remy knows like right off Hayden Panettiere. Could have been me. Didn't you have a crush on
that's
her,
her.
Remy?
That's her.
Is that why you're mad?
That's
You
her.
had a crush.
Yeah,
you did.
I used to watch her on that Heroes show that was on NBC, and I remember sitting next to her in the makeup chair and going like, "This is happening." Do you want to play the clip first, and then I'll talk a little bit about the rest of it?
I think of myself as a performer.
And not as a star? Come on, you're on the big screen.
I did one movie.
And it was huge, and so is your album. You're larger than life, and that's what makes you an icon.
Oh gosh, I don't know about that.
It's true. People are fascinated. They want to know about every part of your life. There's literally a reporter in the studio while we do this interview.
That's true. You got me.
That's
you got me.
got to be the hardest part of the whole thing, right? When you become famous, so does everyone else around you.
Yeah.
This hit newsstands today. Do you read the regs, Juliet?
Ooh, gotcha.
No,
Dang,
not
with
if
the-
I can help it.
Neither do I, but for the listening audience, this is a tabloid shot of your husband and a mystery woman. It says, "Is Juliet's baby daddy finding love elsewhere?" This kind of stuff probably happens all the time, right? People taking pictures of you and your family everywhere you go.
And making false allegations like this one, it happens all the time because this woman is actually a dear, dear friend of mine and a longtime employee, and she helps out with my daughter when I'm on tour, so.
I never doubted it for a second. Who in their right mind would cheat on Juliet Barnes, right? We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
We're gonna take a break. We'll be right back.
I gotta know, Mason. When it like in between filming, did she talk to you? Did Hayden Penny like was she friendly, or did she go to her own place and not talk to anybody?
Two different questions there. Did she talk to me? Yeah. Was she friendly? No. I think it's fair to say I was just a person who was here for a day, so she didn't need to make long-standing friends or a positive impact. And I don't know what she was going through at the time, because I believe there was headlines about her going through some like postpartum stuff after having babies too. So I'm, no shade to throw. However, in those moments, I remember. So the director was I think was the mother that was on Family Ties back in the day. Like she was a famous actress at one point, and she was directing this episode. So she was in there giving us the direction. And I remember I'm a professional in this industry for 20 years at this time. And I'm reading the script and I said, I wouldn't say we'll be right back. Or I wouldn't say we're going to take a break. And I specifically remember Hayden Panettiere. She didn't even look up from the cup, guys. She did this, goes, well, this isn't real life, so you should just read the script. I was like, okie doke.
That's
fantastic.
That was
Swear to
in
God.
her mind, her being like, we don't tell you how to do your job. You don't tell us how to do ours.
Yep.
Fair enough. And we'll be right back. It's kind of where I went with that. But yeah. I didn't have a lot, and it was a lot of sit around and wait. That scene did not take long to film. It was filmed in Nashville in some very famous studios, like very nice studios they have down there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still get once a quarter an email that says I made roughly 4 to 12 cents off of that, depending if somebody bought the series. If somebody actually purchased it, that could be as much as like 25 cents.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah.
We all got to
I
go
get
support Mason's acting career now and go buy the series now.
Yeah. If I'm
hasn't
not
been supported
mistaken,
since.
Did you give the note on her to kind of fidget with her pen?
Maybe. I feel like they were talking about how she was supposed to be nervous. You hear the high pitched sound come up and like the drama start when I did the gotcha baby daddy thing. That was another line I remember going like, baby daddy. I don't know if I'd say that. I'm on a country station, right? And they're like, just read the rags, brother. Yeah. No, it did not have much creative input, but there were those little moments like, and it was fun. And again, I'm sorry, Remy, that happened the way that it did. But I'm also, there were a lot of cool stuff a lot of cool stuff happened in this time, including like we talked about going up on stage during Backstreet Boys and Florida Georgia Line at Wrigley Field. And for two guys who had remotes at Busch Stadium before that, that was like, I can't believe this is happening. So we're backstage talking to the Backstreet Boys and Florida Georgia Line at that big concert. And like, I think Luke Bryan did a night there too at Wrigley, maybe 2 nights in a row. But there was so much fun that happened in Wrigleyville and between St. Louis and Chicago and some of the cool stuff that we got to do during that time. Didn't we do something for pizza, Deep Dish Pizza Day? We partnered with
video. There was a whole video.
Yep.
There was and is. Yeah.
It was what we didn't know at the time would be the last video.
Yeah.
That all of us would participate in.
Yep.
And I think for us it was a huge win because I think at that time it was really cool to have endorsements that were local.
Yeah.
Or having a big brand locally like Lou Malnati's would be huge to get regular income from on the endorsement and sales side of things, right? So I was like, we need to knock it out of the park with this music video. I had an idea for it, and we just kind of.
I'm having flashbacks of scenes of the music video before you even play it. I already know what's coming. Oh God.
Well, I'll go ahead and play what ended up being our last video together.
Guys, Deep Dish Pizza Day. It's a big day. What are you getting?
I was just gonna have dessert.
Probably a salad for me.
I don't know, I'm on a diet.
I'm on my phone.
What? Do you realize that this day only comes one time a year? We're at Lou Malnati's. You need to get pizza.
Would you like to maybe tell us how you really feel via song form?
Coming at your girl, sound like that dough is super, super fresh. Only one piece, your girl, that dude, he sounds just like a lush. Hand it over now, that mozzarella, hey girl, I'm a crush. Better eat it now, don't let that dough turn into mush. Gonna eat it all up in the nighttime. Gonna eat it all up in the daytime. Gonna eat it all up on your FaceTime. Watch me pull that cheese, girl, it's the right time.
The kid likes to eat a lot, way too much in my pizza box. Jaws dropping like the cheese too hot. We the gods, took your girl down to Lumo Knots. I need my toppings, when she with me it's just greens and sausage. Other pizzas, man, don't compare them. We in Chicago, hot jardinera. On the side, make you go grab a fork and knife. I told you once, get my order right. Who ordered fries? Seriously?
Yeah.
Deep Dish Pizza Day, guys. You excited? No more.
Making trash shots, girl, like I'm buzzer beating. Getting sluggish now.
Can you pause?
So much pizza eating. Throwing in.
If you have never had Chicago deep dish pizza, the joke is that you can have one slice and then it is bedtime. So here we are, deep dish, deep dish, deep dish. Oh God, it hurts. Like right after.
Town, no way I'm competing. Easy to forget, always overeating. Gonna eat it all up in the nighttime. Gonna eat it all up in the daytime. Gonna eat it all over your FaceTime. Watch me pull that cheese, girl. Oh, I think it's time for a nap.
I remember that being such a stressful shoot, but it was so much fun. And it turned out so well.
Shout out to an actual Malnati that was in that video too. The guy bringing out the pizza was in there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man.
Who coordinated the dance for that?
That was a little bit of me mixed with some Fortnite dances, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's where those came from.
I believe there was a conversation about like want to include a Fortnite dance. Like, and that's how it goes. It was so funny. That was one of the last video, or if not the last video that we all shot kind of together. I remember I got a video and it pops up on my Facebook memories from time to time to say I remember looking out the window and going, because I don't know how many more times I'll get to look out this window. And that was like right around the time that You remember the Jason Aldean, there's a shooting that happened in Las Vegas. It was right around this time because we were supposed to have a Jason Aldean show, and it was we were supposed to announce it like the day after it happened. So we were in like what is happening mode. I think I might have made a joke about like how, I don't know, we might get fired, and we did like that day, I think. But it was right around that time. I remember looking out that window and going, you never know how long you got it, so I'm going to take a minute to look out this window. It was one of the last things I remember doing in Chicago. And after a while, like we had, I don't want to skip over this like it was nothing. While I've talked about how Remy and I have had many creative differences, the same could be said for myself, Remy, and Alabama, as we were all trying to come into this new space. We had many different disagreements, and we would end up in the boss's office from time to time on different levels going, what happened, sharing our story. So is it fair to say that we weren't exactly the most stable show together? Fair, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I've gone on this tangent with somebody.
No,
after
you're good. Please.
being on other morning shows, because I was talking about mental health with some people the other day and being in mornings. And I wish somebody would have told me before I came to join you guys. I think every single morning show, the characters in the cast are always going to fight. And because you spend so many hours every single day with everybody, and it becomes like you're like family and you're married to each other at work, and nobody said y'all are going to have disagreements and it's normal. So for me, I remember at the time like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. We're not supposed to fight. We're supposed to love each other. And now I'm like, oh, this is just normal things that happen with everybody. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, 100%. For sure. If you think Dan and Shay aren't button heads on different things, I gotta say you're probably wrong. Anybody who works with anybody,
they said that they went out that like last year. They were like, we're gonna call it quits, and we had a lot of creative differences, but we like to make money, so we're gonna just continue on doing this thing. But I think you make such a great point, Alabama, and I don't know that I really saw this until I got into my new position with the company that I'm at right now. And it's the difference between taking it personal, which I did 150% of the time, and just having a creative difference with somebody, but still respecting who they are and who they are as a person. So in my line of work now, there's a lot of science and data that comes into play. There's a lot of opinion from the science and how it is interpreted. That doesn't mean that just because you interpret the science and data one way, that I don't like you as a person. It's just I may not agree with you on that, and that is totally okay. And I think that's where we probably all kind of had a little bit of, and it's even harder when you are actually talking about your personal life all the time on the air. So it's hard to separate that. And if you have the ability to do that, you're probably still on the air with that same show, because there's a lot of that a lot of people that can't do that,
Well, a lot of people don't talk about when you're in radio, especially in a large market, how we were. Remember when we would do perceptuals? And for people who don't work in radio, a perceptual is basically where they take 100 people, they make them listen to a week of random shows, and these people who don't know you write what they think about you, their personal opinions. And some people will say some really mean things about you, and then the company shows it to you, and it'll be like, they think you're basically a piece of shit. I'm paraphrasing, and we'll see that, and you'll walk away in your head going, oh my God, my whole career is based on making people like me and people hate me. And then we have to go in a room and sit together and figure out how to make people like us. And we had just thought about that comment. And then now we're trying to be likable, and then we're frustrated with each other. And then we're like, I can't even, it's so much pressure, and it is such a mind. I'm trying not to say, but it's a mind.
Yeah, no worries.
That's $32,000.
It's really wild, and I don't think a lot of people know about the toll that some of this stuff. They see us having fun, they see us going to concerts, they see us talking to artists, they think we love that, they think that's who we are, and that's I think why we wanted to kind of start doing this is go, actually, here's who we are, and that this was work, and here's what we experienced, so that people know what that's like. And when you put not just like myself and Remy, who are two very different people, then a third person in, it's a dynamic that we all have to learn how to navigate on the fly in a high stress situation with 72 cooks in the kitchen. Because not only is it the three of us telling each other how to do it, it's okay, three: producer, and then program director, and then general manager, and then a consultant, and then you've also got format generals who are coming up from the company, and then that other guy who's a big name in the industry who thinks you should do that thing. I'm going to take my shoe off now so I can count the rest. But that's just a small example of everybody who's telling you how to do your job, and maybe two of them have actually done that job. So it's very difficult to find the right path.
We were all at different points, not only in our lives, but in each one of our careers, I think, we all wanted different things for ourselves. And so it was really hard to mesh all of that together.
For sure. So we had our different issues, and
I think we still did good. Like, it's funny. Like, I remember there were times in the moment when we were all together that I'd be like, God, I hate mornings. I'm never doing mornings again. This is bullshit. And it had nothing to do with y'all. It'd just be mornings. And now I look back at it and I laugh and I'm like, man, we did so much fun stuff. Why did I not enjoy the good while we were in it?
That's a life. That's life, right? Like, we all look back at some point, I think, and feel that. So are you watching, kids? They're not going to listen. It's fine.
They won't listen.
We didn't listen either. No, you know what? It's the circle of life.
I want to point out real quick before we move on, just the difference between the first episode of this podcast, Mason and I just doing a thing, maybe with a little bit of guidance from a program director, to this point in our career where the most people were involved in this show. Like Mason said, the VPs, we had talent consultant, we had consultants, we had our program director, all the things. And I think the biggest weight that I carry is, should I have listened to our talent coach who is just telling us to be us? Don't worry about the song count. Just do you guys. But then in the other ear, you have your program director saying, worry about the song count and make sure to plug X, Y, and Z that the company is putting on right now. It became the product that was Mason and Remy in Alabama, in my opinion, became so diluted at that point with all the other things that were going on and all of the opinions. And try going into a studio and picking the right one, because that's the hardest part. And I'm sure anybody that's in radio right now is still going through that to some extent. Now, it probably depends on market size, how many people are worried, how much money does the thing make, all of those things. But that, I just wanted to throw that comparison out there because I think that that's important.
I think that can be said for any job in any industry too, is because I look at different people, because I'm still in radio and I still have a lot of people telling me different things. And so now I stop and I think, and I'm like, well, who is on them telling them certain things? Like, I used to be so in my bubble. I didn't realize, like, I would probably get mad at Mason for telling me some shit 5 years ago, but I didn't realize he had somebody saying, you got to make sure the commercials are on time. I would just be like, Mason didn't let me talk. And now, like, I realize that people are talking to him and he shielded us from it. Like, our bosses are probably, their bosses are telling them, like, one boss, his boss is telling him, well, you're not hitting budget, and if you don't hit it, we're going to lose the station. And another boss is like, well, you got to help them get their ratings up, because whatever. Like, all the different people are being told different things from different people, and we are just the snowball effect of other people getting yelled at to us getting yelled at in any job, not just radio.
Yeah. I'll be honest here too. I had no training as a manager of people. Like, I was in this weird faux leadership position, but had no leadership training, but was expected to lead and also didn't want to lead. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be the only one who's like responsible for this thing, but also like, I'm supposed to be this ringmaster of the circus, right? That's trying to control the chaos.
Bama and I definitely see that now.
Oh yeah. Like I moved to another show after y'all, and I used to get so mad at the main host. He would be editing calls and he would shush me. And now I do that, and I've been told like you shush me, and I'm like, and I remember saying at one point, I will never shush anybody, and now I'll be like, I've got 30 seconds to get this on the air. Be quiet.
You still didn't shush him, which is good. You stayed true to your word, but you told him in a nicer way. I totally get it, and that's hard. I'm first. I want to say we're both. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that because it's a struggle. I know, like I never wanted to be a manager or a leader of people, like or things like that. Like I wanted us to have fun, but I also knew that we had those things we had to hit. And you're right, there are guys in my ear going, "Don't forget to hit that time" or whatever that thing is. But also, you need to make the room for the magic to happen. So, like that balance is super, super hard to find. But it's one of the challenges of the job, and it's one that I'm sure very well now that you're in there conducting that orchestra. And anybody would if they get to sit behind that big board and do what they have to do.
Yeah.
There's only a few other notes I have before we get to the reckoning in Chicago, where a few of us were cut, but a few of us were not. So in that, 2/3 of this 3-shot, I believe were cut at one point. And we'll chat about that. Bama, I think we'll wrap up with you. And we've taken quite a bit of your time. So thank you again for diving in. But
Yeah.
I think a good question is like, after we got let go, you were still around for a little while. What happened after that?
I ended up leaving, and this was, I think maybe it was a mix of some of the changes on the station, and maybe it was a mix of where I was in my life, because I was young. I was in my early 30s, and I was single and going through my own life stuff. And I put all my stuff in storage and lived out of a tent for a couple of months and drove across the country with my dog Stevie Nicks and wrote a book about it and was like doing my soul searching. I had watched Into the Wild and Wild with Reese Witherspoon, and I was like, I'm going to do that. And so I saved up some money and said, bye guys, I'm leaving. I'm going to go live out of a tent.
Do you still have the books for sale anywhere?
Oh yeah, they're on Amazon. Dear World, Letters
All right.
from a Girl and Her Lost Dog, or Lost Girl and Her Dog. But you have to search it by the title, because I decided to publish it under my real name, which, spoiler alert, it's not Alabama, it's Amber Cole. And if you search Amber Cole, there's another Amber Cole publishing books on Amazon that writes sex books on how to please your man and 101 ways to make
Which is very much
that is not
okay. All right.
Wait, that is
Okay.
not-
Mm-hmm.
True story.
Sure.
I searched that one day and I was like, mother trucker. I should have published
What
it
are
under
the odds?
Alabama. I was so mad.
That's very funny.
I was so mad.
Well, but that's awesome though. Yeah, I know that while we were together on the show, I know that you had a number of personal things going on that we talked about. I think that was something that helped us as a show break through. I think that's something that helped not just us as a show, but you as a person to be a real, like, relatable human to our listeners. We're in this weird pedestal and so much happens in your life.
We didn't even, man, I love y'all. Y'all are the first platform that let me talk about my mom. And we talked about this on the show on Mother's Day about the strained relationship I had with my mom, because she was an addict my whole life and she was a heroin addict. And she heard that and was upset with me. Well, fast forward to after everything happened in 2019, I had a stroke on the air when I was on another show. They found a hole in my heart that caused the stroke, and my mom came to Seattle. She took a bus from Alabama to Seattle and stayed with me for 2 months. I might cry telling this, I don't know. And she had been with me for 2 months. Then right after my heart surgery, I put her on a bus and sent her home, and she died from a heroin overdose 4 days after she got to Alabama on Thanksgiving 2019. And I remember we were a little strange. She had come to Chicago. Y'all met my mom. She came to Chicago and stayed in Chicago. And I was so glad I got to spend the time with her in Seattle when I did, because I think her, like, she's the only family member that visited me in Chicago and Seattle, and she still had her problems, and I was so mad at her for all of my life, but she was so proud of me and got to see the things. And there was like a point in Seattle where we became friends and I stopped being mad at her. I think that's why her death was so hard on me, because I was like, fuck, we just got to be okay. And then she died, That was part of the reason I
I'm
came
sorry.
back
You know.
to Alabama. Thank you. And then COVID hit and
Yeah.
everything was on lockdown, and I was living in Seattle, and I was like, I want to go home. And I came home
Yeah.
and started the show. And I was here when I first launched the show. My granddad was dying, but I got to spend the last year of my granddad's life with him too before he passed. People don't tell, like, when you move for radio, you're away from your family and you miss life. Your family keeps living and you're out doing this radio thing and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. You leave chasing a dream, right? And what's the real dream you end up questioning later in life. Thanks for sharing that update. I'm sorry to hear that. You know, we send our love, obviously. And I think a lot of folks probably wanted an update about not just Bama, but everything around Bama. And I got to tell you that since we started kicking this thing up, biggest thing we heard was Friday Jam. Second biggest thing was, you going to talk to Alabama? Like, so had to definitely so happy to connect with you and reminisce a little bit here about some of these days when it feels like we were just kids, but we were definitely full grown adults doing full grown adult things.
I love y'all. I still, and I know we all do. We all watch each other on social media, and I still love like seeing the life updates from everybody. It's really cool. Remy's mom still comments on my Facebook sometimes. So
Yeah.
Me too. Party popper emoji. Yeah.
There was a time when I just after I had unfollowed you, I had unfollowed everybody that was involved with the Big 95.5 era of my life. And I remember my mom would always text me and be like, did you see what Alabama's doing? She's living in a tent and I can't believe she's doing that. And all this stuff. And I was like, Mom, I don't follow Bama.
I don't want to hear about it. And for your
I,
mental health too.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
To bring it all around, I'm happy. And I will say, I never thought that this day with both of y'all would actually happen. And I liken it to the relationship I had with, like your siblings, your brother, your sister, whatever. And you fight like dogs when you're growing up, but then you spend some time apart and you reevaluate whether that's conscious or subconscious. And then you can come back and have this moment. So I'm happy that this is actually happening.
Oh, I have to say this. I know y'all are going to let me go and talk about the after part and when the things happen, but I do have to say, like, my part, because I don't think we ever actually had a conversation about when everybody got let go, because it was you guys and there were like 3 other people on the station. And so what happened, I have to tell my side of the story to y'all because y'all don't even know it. All of a sudden, the big boss calls all 3 of us, right? And we're walking to the office, and then I'm behind y'all, and so another boss pulls me and goes, hey, just come sit in my office for a minute. And I'm like, no, we got to go here for a meeting. He's like, no, come sit in my office. And I was like, okay. And he sits me down and shuts the door, and he goes, first off, I just want you to know you're safe. And we're in Chicago, and so I'm like, somebody's telling me we're safe. I'm like, was there a shooter in the building? Are we all about to die? What's going on? And that's when he said, like, y'all got let go. Our other boss had got let go. Somebody else had been let go. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And he was like, and that was one of the days I was hungover too and had no makeup on. And they were like, the new boss is about to come in an hour. You should meet him. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to walk to my apartment and take a shower. And y'all were waiting downstairs. And everything was happening so fast and I didn't know what was going on. But I remember at some point a few days later, flipping out, being like, why didn't y'all even tell me that this was going to happen? Because listeners were pissed. I had to figure out how to do a show without y'all, and I didn't know jack shit about mornings. And and I'm not blaming the company because I still work for iHeart and I love iHeart and I do love the company. It's such a thing that happens in all radio companies and all like morning shows have experienced. If one person gets let go on a show and another person stays, listeners are pissed, the co-hosts are pissed, and they tell everybody you can't say anything publicly, you're under a gag order, and you feel like shit, and then you want to keep your job because you've got to pay your bills. And it's such a really weird, hard thing to go through. And I'm sorry, like, I know it's nothing like y'all had to lose your jobs and move your whole family, and it's nothing. Like, it sucks for everybody.
No worries on our side for anything. Like, I think we know what was happening there. And so, yeah, in that moment, I think it was myself, Remy, our producer, our promotion / APD, and the program director who were all let go. And wouldn't you know it? They were going to eventually, and I don't know if this happened right away, Bama, but they were going to put on that other syndicated show, weren't they? Dang it. Once again, they were going to replace us with that syndicated show.
Now the station's not even around because at one point I got drunk and called our old boss from Chicago and wanted to come back because after I lived out of a tent, and they kind of laughed at me.
That was the people that came in after we were all let go?
Somebody, I don't remember. No, it was the other one of these. I'm not going to say his name.
Some other guy. Gotcha.
That station's not even a country station anymore. It's a classic rock station. I'm like, oh, it was. I was never meant to end there anyway.
Right. And that's kind of something weird too. And we'll talk about that. But like, we got a few years of a chance. They wanted to try this country thing in the city. And I would say it worked to a point that we like dethroned this other legendary country station. Remember when they did the rebrand and they bought on the guys from the rhythmic station? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was nothing against the guys, but it was weird. It was very weird.
They were playing Usher one day, and the next day they were wearing capri pants in Wrigleyville riding horses.
Oh,
I swear to you that it was an idea.
It was an idea, and
one of the ideas of all time.
What happened was, and when they first got brought on, and it was just it's not necessarily a dig at them. It's a testament to the position that they were put in.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking, I believe, with Darius Rucker backstage, and what they do is they'll bring both country stations will have representatives, and we'll have that awkward like moment backstage where we're like drinking and making small talk and trying to, whatever. And I remember overhearing their interview with Darius, and something came out of one of their mouths that was like, when I was researching you earlier today, and prefaced the question with that. And I was like, man, these guys they were in the position that we were in 2010, where they knew nothing about any of the artists, but they're on the biggest stage, Market 3, Chicago, huge heritage brand. And they were put in that position, and that sucks for them. I'm sure they're doing fine now, but like, it just got real weird in Chicago during that era for sure.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
I miss country radio because I'm not in country anymore. I'm back in top 40, and Chicago was the first country station I had ever been on, so I had to learn country again. But I had always listened to country. I just had to learn country radio, and I miss it. Like, I remember being in country and being like, oh, I want to go back to top 40. I miss it, but there are no artists in any other format as awesome as country artists. Except for Sam Hunt. He didn't marry me, but he'll be all right.
Or Dustin Lynch.
That's right. You went on a date with Dustin. Take a walk, Dustin. She's out. That's hilarious. Well, let's Bama, we can let you get back to your day, taking quite a bit of time to chat with us. Really appreciate it. All the best to you, Steak Daddy, the dogs, the ducks, everybody, the cats, the farm,
the geese.
Mima,
the
geese, the attack geese. Yes, yeah.
Oh my God. So my chicken is broody and she's hatching baby chicks. If I get 2 roosters and a chick, I'm gonna name them Mason, Remy, and Alabama.
All right, send us a picture. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been named after pigs. We're very used to this.
This is totally cool. I'm into it. Thank you, Bama, so much for the chat today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Good to see y'all.
Very cool to connect with Alabama after so many years. We haven't chatted at all. I am definitely in the same boat as you, as like when a radio career ends, unfollow and mute everything so you can properly move on. Some people would say that's petty, but whatever. Like when you put your whole life and existence into this thing and then suddenly it's gone, every reminder of it feels bad. So you just kind of have to take a second to step away. And I did the same. I mute and unfollow and block, like all these things that I don't want them popping in. So it's good to catch up with Bama after so many years. I chatted about all the differences that we've had, and we've chatted since then. I've also mentioned on this podcast, I've been on my apology tour. I have apologized to Alabama and before we invited her on, like, hey, if anything was crazy back then. And I think she had the same vibe. Like, dude, we were all so young and in so much of a high pressure situation. She explained it really eloquently. during our conversation here. So really great to talk to her.
Yeah.
Was happy.
I don't
happy.
think we've really gone into too much detail when it comes to the like creative differences that we've all experienced. But I think that with the touching on of like taking it personal, and I think that she was saying that she kind of did the same thing that I did, that maybe you weren't intending or I wasn't intending or whatever. But I do want to make a mention of the green room that we had behind the stage, because I feel like that was kind of, from a show standpoint, imbalance was happening, and we had been thrown at that point. There, could we recover? Will we ever financially recover from this? But mentally recover from this. So a couple times we have this conference center in the building, or on the floor that we were on, and there was a stage there, but behind it was the green room, the Sprite Lounge, or whatever they called it.
For
We
the
would
artists
go
could
back
go
there.
beforehand and
Yeah.
get ready for the show that they were going to put on in the Sprite room, right? Yeah.
And if there was nothing going on, there was just nobody in there, and it was relatively soundproof. So that's where we would have 2 or 3 hour, I would say, I don't know if confrontations are the right words, but it would get pretty heated.
We'd have a scrum. We'd throw down. We'd put it all out on the table, right? And try to settle it. I think from time to time. I hate to say that, like, I'd probably have blocked a lot of those out of my mind. I have no doubt that 80 to 90% of them were my fault and how we handled it. But they tried very hard to help us along the way. But I feel like there were some missed steps, you know what I mean? Like, not only from us, but also from like management, consultants, and everything. Like, they talk about what you can do on the air, but nobody is consulting on how to handle the rest of it. Nobody is consulting on
so beneficial if that was the case.
Everything that is required to do to be a media star, the amount of time and effort you have to put into building your own brand, the amount of charity of work and events that you have to go to, sacrificing time with your family and loved ones to actually build your career in a city of this size. You have to constantly be visible. You have to travel all over. And if you want to be a syndicated show, you have to go to all these things all the time, whether there's an event. Like, you remember the guys who would do like syndicated night shows, are like, I'm in Nashville or I'm in some other place and I'm talking to all these people. You are not allowed, I hate to say this, you are not allowed to have an actual life if you are like on that fast track. Look at some of these artists who are out there on the road doing 200 shows a day, busting their butts, and then being exhausted, being checked into rehab because all the drugs that they've been fed are starting to take a toll on their body, and it's starting to cost the product. So now they're starting to like bleed money. And so we got to straighten them out. It's just, it feels like such a juice press sometimes, of like just constant squeeze. And then when there's no more juice, throw the next orange in there. You know what I'm saying? And it keeps coming.
Yeah. She made a good point with telling a story about her mom. And I remember meeting Alabama's mom, and it seemed relatively normal, like a normal interaction. But I know that obviously she was going through stuff.
A lot happening.
You lived apart from your wife for many, many, many years, long distance relationship. We're starting a family at this point. Like, my son had just been born. Both of the kids were born in Chicago, and there's real people that are in that juice squeezer, the orange juice maker. There's real people with real lives. And I know for a fact that corporate entities do not view us as human beings and just cogs in the system that make the revenue or don't make the revenue. And that's it. And it's unfortunate, but
there's a sad reality that, once all the juice is squeezed, there is another orange. Once whatever, like, look at me. Am I the guy that should be doing like top 40 radio right now? Like, I'm an older guy and our content means something else. Bro, this is good. Apropos of nothing other than Andre 3000 and Outkast are an amazing artists that saw amazing success. And now Andre plays the flute and is like, rap. Like, whatever. I want to do what makes me happy. He could go in there and go, yo, and rap a flow and probably make a bunch of money. But kudos to the guy who's like, I'd much rather see if this will work. You know what I mean? Like, having your own personal happiness over the success of whatever this monetary stuff is so much more important. And that's hard to see when they're throwing $250,000 at you or whatever it is, and making you feel like you're somebody. So as all this stuff is going down, like we're taking those personal beatings. Remember how much when we listened to the unprofessional news? Remember how confident we were in that? Remember how much we loved that? The general manager at that station said, "I don't like the unprofessional news. Stop doing it." I think if I remember correctly, his wife listened. Like he wasn't even the guy that listened pretty regularly.
Yep.
I don't think he liked us, and he did not hold back letting us know that we were not the genre of country that he liked. He was definitely an older white guy, and rightfully so. Loved his Alan Jacksons and Toby Keiths of the world, but we were moving into a Luke Bryan tight pants era, and this world was changing in country. And we were doing this new stuff that I don't think was fully understood. We've been here before, right? We had done this before, but 3 years was all we got. And I remember hearing the unprofessional news isn't funny. Don't do it anymore. And I remember I just my heart, you know what I mean? Just a clinch.
For the focus group of one.
Yeah. A focus group of one person who was apparently in the right position to make a call. And you got to do what you got to do when the boss is telling you to do stuff. So the unprofessional news died in Chicago. And that took another piece of my heart, another piece of my soul, because it was a foundation of the show. This was also where when there would be like a mass shooter, we wouldn't say their name and they would say, "No, we don't want you to have that much." This is how I took it. We don't want you to have that much personality. We don't want you to have that much impact so that people actually remember what you do. Because we're going to eventually replace you with a syndicated show. So we don't want you guys to actually make headway. If you could just keep doing this much, you know what I mean? And it felt like a lot of times we were capped on what we could do. This would become a future notice for me when you could compare the morning shows that were next to each other and the resources giving and potentially the revenue generated as well. But if we were ever going to generate some, you'd think there'd be some sort of investment of money to make money, but it's neither here nor there. The people with the influence over the show did what they wanted to do. This is the same group that when we came to town said, "All right, guys, welcome to Chicago. Make a viral video." Like that is not that easy, but they had seen us do it in St. Louis. You've done it before, do it again, sure. And this is the era where you would go to a basketball game and you'd see like some big guy in the crowd. And when a song starts, suddenly he'd take his shirt off and he'd have the logo and he's like doing a dance. And it's like, a silly viral moment. I mean, obviously staged, right? Or the guy who's like going to kiss some other girl and pour his beer on somebody, right? Like this was the era of social media surprises.
Flash mobs.
Yeah, flash mobs. Oh my God, they wanted us to do a flash mob, you guys. And it was such a played out thing at the time. And I'm pretty sure it still happened. Like they still made those things happen. They still got the big guy to do the dance with the big 95.5 logo on his belly or something. And for us, we wanted to do more. We wanted to do Lou Malnati and we wanted to do songs and our own creative stuff. Do you happen to have that video that we made when they said go viral?
We had the idea because the T-Rex costume was super popular, the inflatable T-Rex costume.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And what was it? It was like we wanted to create a channel and a character that nobody knew who was behind it, but this T-Rex would just show up in random parts of Chicago. And I don't know, I think it did okay. But this is I'll play the first video that we had the idea of the T-Rex going to the Field Museum.
Okay.
This is obviously a very different video for us. You'd never know that it was like we were behind it.
But that was the idea, right? Like we didn't want people to know that we were doing it. I feel like over time, when people found out that you worked in radio, they were like, and things that you were doing were suddenly less cool. Oh, this is it.
Pivotal moment when the T-Rex sees
Sue, right?
relatives.
That's Sue the T-Rex. And our T-Rex is devastated. Folks, this is cinema. Sound effect. A little girl is waving at the T-Rex who is mourning Sue. Clearly a relative.
Putting flowers on the gravestone. So yeah, I won't play the rest of this because there's definitely Jurassic Park music in there.
Okay, yeah.
But this is hilarious because I went back and I got this random idea. I was like, what could possibly, what view count could these possibly be at these days? And I think it was maybe 2 or 3 months ago when I went back to this page. That video has 1.1 million views on it.
Guys,
it was
we did
filmed 8 years ago. We did it. We made a viral video.
We finally did it. We finally did it.
On an account that nobody knows we were a part of. It's called Chicago T-Rex. It also has 5,000 subscribers randomly. Like who's subscribing to this?
Is this also, are there any other T-Rex videos that you want to show? Because I feel like there were a few different things that we did. We had a whole strategy for Chicago T-Rex at one point. And this is not the first time. We had like some weird things like this feels a lot like New Country Nights or Unhappy Hot Dog or Terrible Morning Show or Interweb Explosion. We had so many of these ideas that we were like, let's go. But the resources, the time, right? We had such a hard time actually making them happen. And it's so nice to go back and be like, hey, this one actually worked.
Yeah.
Do you have another video?
Yeah, my wife was a ballet dancer and she had a bunch of connections at Chicago Ballet. So the T-Rex auditioned for
Ballet Chicago. Yeah. Look at those shoes, by the way.
Like regular ballet music, like they would be doing for class, and then led into Jurassic Park. It was awesome, and the girls and the guys that there just started laughing at it because it was such an abrupt change. But
started to realize it. Yes. Look at the shoes on you, by the way. That's you in that costume, right?
That's me. Yeah.
Look at the ballet shoes. So
funny. So we did one where we were at Millennium Park and we were ice skating. There was a couple other shorts here and there, but those are the 3 main videos, and they all have several thousand views on them, which is very funny to me at this point.
So yeah, the strategy was to develop this like hidden viral thing, and then we would be responsible for it. I don't think we ever had a plan of like how we would reveal it, but we wanted to do this kind of like subterfuge under the radar thing to show that we could. And I mean, years later, it turns out we did. I wish they had known it at the time. We might have actually still kept that job, but it's coming to be the time where we got to wrap not just this podcast, but the Chicago era. And Bama talked a little bit about it, but I want to say that there was talk around the word bankruptcy. At least that's what we were told. And that's when, like myself, Remy, producer, assistant program director, all of us were let go, right? Is that the count? Is that it?
I believe so. Yeah, it just affected our station, because typically what'll happen in these reduction in forces that they do is they'll take a wide swath, like a salesperson, and a major personality, and a producer, and all from different stations. But this only affected, I believe, our station. So
very interesting. I always thought that when these reduction in forces happen, I'm sorry to my friends in sales, but it's never the salespeople. It felt like it always felt like it was us, the folks who have the recipe to make the hamburgers, and not the people who are putting up the signs about the hamburgers.
Yeah.
And sometimes we had a hard time convincing those folks on how to sell our hamburgers. But weirdly, the air talents are always the ones that are cut when something happens, not the folks who don't have the ability to sell the products, or the folks making the call on what those products are. But they think that there's more beef in the market, so somebody else will come in and be a hamburger next. And best of luck to them, because we're not in the hamburger business anymore.
The bankruptcy story, whether true or not, as far as like the reason we were cut and cost cutting and things like that. I mean, I think cost cutting is probably, any way a radio company can save money, they will do that. I don't know if there was always just other things in the works. like if the syndication that was coming after us was always just kind of hanging out, ready to go. But the text message that I received on that one faithful night from the mentor came true again. So there you go. He did get it for himself.
He did. I can't remember how long the station was on the air after we left, whether it was a year or months or whatever it was. But like we talked about earlier, Chicago is one of those markets where you can't really have a syndicated show. Chicago wants to hear about Chicago. And so it didn't last long. That radio station was quickly replaced. And Angie Taylor is a great talent, Chicago name. Rock is a big format in Chicago. So that's what's been happening since. My understanding was Big 95.5 then turned into a streaming station. It's still available on streaming. And some folks that are like now in Nashville are on that station. Like Brooke, I think still like is a part of that. Although I don't know, I've lost track. Like we talked about earlier, I unfollowed and unsubscribed. I don't want that stuff in my timeline anymore. Because I'm not that person anymore and I don't have to care about it anymore. No offense to anybody that's there, but it's, when you wash your hands of something or something washes its hands of you, you don't want to be like, oh, I wonder what you're up to today. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to any of that, but I remember that they took me down the hall into the general manager's office and there was an HR person there. They took you to someone else, right?
Yeah. I went to, I believe, the program director of WGCI, which is another station in the cluster. And I think I got the program director and a random business manager. So two people that I had never really interacted with let me go. And it was very much one of those situations where I was like, what's happening? What's going on? Everything is in the packet.
Yep.
Like, is there severance? Everything is in the packet. Like nothing. It was the most sterile. And it had to be hard for them too. They're also humans having to deliver this terrible news to a person that's now losing the most money they've ever made in their life to now figure out what's next. But it was very sterile. It still hits me in a weird way, but that was it. You got the more higher profile people. So
there's probably, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it was somebody that we had interacted with, and sadly, I'm pretty sure was involved in previous replacements of us. But it's like one of those things where you just go. I remember going, oh, okay. And as we were walking out, like the same guy who said he didn't like the unprofessional news, and the same guy who didn't understand what we were doing, I shook his hand, and I said, "Thanks for giving us a shot." And we took the elevator for one last time down 26 floors. And that's where we bumped into Alabama, who was like, oh, I still have a job. And we were like, oh, really? Oh,
yeah. In my mind, it was like, of course you do. I hope she's still listening to this off the air, but no hard feelings, obviously now. But like, it was, in the moment, it was very much like, okay. And we just kind of waited at the bottom of the elevator bank to see who was also involved in this. And
who else was on the chopping block. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And from there, I don't know how much you and I talked about it afterwards, but I know that we had maybe thrown around a couple of tapes. There was like a small talk around Milwaukee about possibly like going to work there for a minute. There was small talks about going to a few different places, but nothing ever really fully came of it. This is probably a good place to wrap up the Chicago era. So before we get even longer than I know we already are, might be at the longest episode so far. How did we end up back in St. Louis on a station that we had previously destroyed in the ratings? And how did we rebuild and rebrand that station that we had previously turned to rubble, I guess, in some way? And then eventually, how would we end up splitting? And how would we end up not doing mornings together for a third time? We'll talk about it in the next episode and the return to St. Louis. Always good to chat with you, Remy. Appreciate you.
Likewise.
All right. Find us from the links below in the description. Really appreciate everybody checking it out. If you haven't done so yet, the subscribe thing and find us on X and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. We appreciate you. Reliving a lot of our eras here has been super fun and healing in a lot of different ways. Like I hope people understand it was for this Alabama episode. It's probably why it's the biggest episode, because it was the most pressure, the most money, and probably the most impactful time we had together, as it was go time, and we went. to make a viral video and do everything else we could. But it wasn't on us to decide in the end. So what came next? Find out in the next episode. Thank you for watching. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.